Sure.
Hi, my name is Mark Mobius.
Yeah.
I'm president of Templeton Emerging Markets. We manage the largest emerging markets funds in the world. We now are managing over $50 billion in emerging markets funds.
Right.
Many of people have even called me an investment guru, the father of emerging markets, the bald eagle. I don't mind these names, they're fine. But the reality is that we are just investing. We're trying our best to do well for our investors, to increase the assets that we have under management and investments which will benefit our investors.
Oh, I see, yeah. Well, you see, what we ought to probably tell them is that there's nothing wrong with having all these restrictions for another manager. In other words, there are some managers who are indexing the portfolio, and that those managers would be best qualified to use for such, such a portfolio. But if they put restrictions like that, they're not using us in the right way, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean?
We are here in Singapore, we pay a very low tax. Why? Because the Singapore government wants to attract people like us, money managers, investment managers, to the city, because they want to become a financial center, global financial center. So we're able to pay very little tax, and in some cases no tax at all. And of course, our employees pay taxes, and we are hiring people to come in. So indirectly, the government benefits from people who are working here and paying taxes on their individual incomes. Globalization has a very bad connotation, but actually globalization has proven to be very good for all countries around the world, because it lowers the total cost of goods and services. If you have a competitive market on a global basis, it lowers costs for everyone and keeps inflation under control. So we think that this globalization trend is generally very, very good. And of course, in our field, we are now investing in emerging markets, and we are helping the pensions in the West, in the developed countries, because we're earning money in emerging markets and moving it back to the West. It's quite possible that your pension fund is invested in one of our funds, because pension managers also want to have a diversity of opportunities around the world.
I don't know what these guys are telling them. I think maybe who would be the person to talk to there? No, I mean on their side.
I don't think an investor should be responsible for the ethics or the pollution or whatever of the company in which he's invested.
Yeah, what?
That's not his job. His job is to invest and make money for his clients.
Yeah. Shall we give him a ring, do you think?
When we talk about emerging markets, we're really talking about growth. Growth is what we are all about. That's the reason why we got into emerging markets in the first place. And it's panned out just like we expected 20 years ago, when the IFC started to use the word emerging markets. You know, in the past it wasn't called emerging markets. It was called underdeveloped countries, the poor, the third world, the South, etc., etc. Then someone had the bright idea of calling it emerging markets. Sounded really nice and, fast growing. And of course, that's exactly what happened.